Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Hi everyone, my name is Tasha Antwi and I am a strategy director at Media Vision. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to transform your brand online to offline experiences with AI-powered strategies. So in terms of a quick overview, I'm going to go over quickly the digital landscape, and then I'm going to address the ongoing debate between attention versus retention, and then go over some O2O strategies, very top line, and then how can you use keyword research to kind of inform consumer demand, and how they can supercharge this with AI. So when it comes to the digital landscape, obviously you may have heard of before, obviously attention is the most valuable digital commodity, and actually $853 billion is spent worldwide when it comes to this alone. And Magna actually forecasts that ad spend will grow by 7.2% in 2024 alone. So this is huge. And for this reason, obviously you've got your various different platforms which are obviously fighting for everyone's attention and have enhanced their search and shopping capabilities. So as a result, this means that brands actually have to work 10 times harder to actually cater to our interests, our needs, and our preferences, and provide content, products, services that we would be essentially interested in. And obviously when this is done right, you can actually use this to your advantage, especially if you have an online store, to actually build that bigger and wider brand affinity. So as a result, purchases have become more inspiration driven. And I'll explain what this means a bit as we go on. So what does this mean for web search? This essentially means that search no longer actually starts off at Google anymore. And it's really important that you understand the role that each and every one of these platforms play in a consumer search journey and how this funnels them along the conversion journey. So what this means is that you need to think a bit more broadly beyond the keyword. Who are your customers? What are their needs? What do they value? And what can we offer to improve their experience? So everything in your strategy needs to be audience first, which is essentially the process of designing every element of your marketing strategy around the needs, wants, behaviors of your audience. So what's more important, attention or retention? So I'm going to read this because it's a quote by an economist and a Nobel laureate called Herbert A. Simon, where he says, "A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention and a need to allocate the attention efficiently among the overabundance of information sources that might consume it." A bit of a mouthful, but what he was trying to say was that there's a big problem when it comes to the attention economy, because there's so much going on online, there's so much content, there's so many products, there's so many new brands popping up. Our attention is heavily divided. And what this means is that it's hard to get people hooked onto your brand or what you're trying to sell and actually engage them and to become lifelong customers. So in psychology, there's two concepts, which is selective attention and selective retention. And in the context of marketing, selective attention is the inclination of consumers to basically pay more attention to messages which kind of resonate with them a bit more deeply in terms of their needs, wants, beliefs, and values. And selective retention is actually how consumers remember information about your brand, your messaging, and it's all based on what they previously established as their needs, beliefs, and interests. So slight difference, but this one is a bit more deep and a bit more intrinsic. So obviously as SEOs, we all know that your returning users over time typically have a higher average order value and customer lifetime value as well. So your search strategy actually needs to include this audience as well. So instead of just focusing on just targeting your non-branded keywords and increasing rankings that way and drawing new people to your site or your brand, which is obviously great, you also need to work on how do we then convert them to keep coming back and building trust with your brand, especially as there's an abundance of information, products, services that they keep getting thrown out across all platforms. So I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of this concept before, the zero consumer. I don't know if anyone's heard of that before. But basically, this is where the expectations for consumers have gone very, very like high, essentially for brands, and they have lower brand loyalty, they have no patience, and are buying across various different channels. And what it means is that we all need, as SEOs and brands, we need to work much more hard to kind of break through this and build brand affinity. So content is actually key when it comes to cutting through the noise and having consistent brand messaging and a brand identity, which adds some meaningful value to your potential customer or user, and obviously to build that emotional connection with your audience. So what is online to offline? So this is essentially a strategy that focuses on using online channels to kind of transfer people from digital onto physical and to generate more real life transactions. So this is hyper relevant for high involvement purchases. For example, you're not going to buy a car online, but you'll start off your journey online where you do all of your research, but you'll complete your research in a store. Same with luxury purchases or something like fine art. And obviously having a store also reduces the friction that shopping online can bring. So when it comes to things like in-store returns, click and collect, and then experience and advice and events as well. So according to Google, 61% of shoppers would rather shop with a brand that also have a physical location than ones that are online only. So actually having a physical location can actually be a major advantage for you online as well. And this is usually driven by trust. Obviously, you know that if you're going to buy a product or a service, that website's not suddenly going to disappear and you can't find your item and your items have gone missing, because you know that if you really needed to, you could head to a store if you needed to. So this massively builds trust. So having an actual store is a good way to actually to promote this, to build significant brand affinity as well, and making sure that we are satisfying that consumer journey and having a more holistic approach to how we connect with our audience. And obviously, as we know, people buy with emotion and then they justify with logic. And the perfect way to drive this is in store. I'm pretty sure loads of us have gone shopping and have made a decision like they're not buying anything. But once you're there and you're in it, you have the feeling and you end up buying something that you probably didn't budget to buy. So if I use the example of a luxury store, their stores actually represents a tangible representation of their brand image, their values, and their aesthetics, which sometimes can be hard to portray online and sometimes through content as well. And obviously you've got the benefit of having the immediate gratification of when you see something and you can buy it, and then this also helps their purchase decisions be made more easier because you can actually see and feel the product. So how do we understand consumer demand? We need to unlock the power of keyword research in order to gain insights into what they might be thinking about, products and services that they might be searching around, so that we can better optimize our content and facilitate them from online to offline and help them drive them through to conversion. So what this means is when you do your keyword research, you also need to kind of map your phrases against where they might potentially be sitting along the conversion funnel, and then also understand what priority platforms they're likely to use with the search terms. And this can help you understand where people are getting stuck and what kind of content you need to create to kind of facilitate them through. So understanding search context is key for multi-platform SEO approach. Now, what I mean by this, I know that there's a lot of chatter around TikTok, for example, being a search engine. However, you need to understand the difference between what a search-first platform is and an inspiration-first platform is. And then obviously you've got your hybrids. So when it comes to search-first platforms, obviously like Google, YouTube, Amazon, for example, when you log on to these platforms, your journey actually has to start with a search. Whereas when you go on a platform like TikTok or IG, you're served content, and depending on how you engage with that content, that then influences the content that you go on to see and influences what you choose to search for that maybe you didn't have in your mind before. Does that make sense? And obviously your hybrid platforms kind of cater to the two, but can also be used as things like customer service and a bit more B2B. Cool. So I was browsing TikTok, came across an AP watch and saw people talking about it quite a bit. And I guess I think I was just manifesting a future watch for myself. And when I did some keyword research around their brand terms, I found that obviously people are heavily searching for this brand a lot on TikTok. And actually 72% of their keywords that they rank for in Google are all informational, and only very little of it is transactional. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this brand, but on average, their watches are around £80,000. So you are not going to buy an £80,000 watch online. However, you will do all your research here. And then looking at TikTok, going back to what I was saying around understanding search context around the platforms, if they're on TikTok, there probably is an aspirational product. They're in the inspiration phase. That's why searches are there. But the people who probably could afford it are very small, hence the searches that you see in Google. And obviously their site also drives people to complete their journey in store. This is another example, slightly different. This was for a previous client that was around travel and did some keyword research. And as you can see across all of these keyword categories, City Breaks has the most average monthly searches. However, what's interesting to see is that most of the searches actually take place on Instagram, which again tells me there's a lot of inspiration going on there. Once people get inspired, they then go onto platforms such as Google to then complete their journey. So at Media Vision, we have a tool which is called Metis, which helps us understand consumer and market demand, which then helps us identify actionable opportunities faster than anybody else. And we look at all of these various platforms in order to do this. So understanding the user case for each platform allows us as marketers to craft tailored content that allows to our users' intentions, and that alignment basically helps us with engagement, increase relevance, and drives users to desired actions, which is obviously to either complete their transactions online or to go to a store. So this is an example that I put together on how you can basically build out your content pillars to basically build that online visibility. And again, thinking with AP in mind, I'd had some hypothetical audience groups. So you've got audience group 1, 2, and 3, and then the related products that you would map towards these people. And then based on these products, what do they care about? So if we look at luxury watches, obviously they might care more about craftsmanship and the hardware, versus people who are into the sports and active watches that might care about technical features and innovation. And then below that, to go a bit more deeper, you'd want to look at their lifestyle and their interests. So for example, the person that might be interested in more of the luxury watches are probably going to be interested in like fine art, heritage, and maybe Formula One. And then with the audience group 2, maybe more adventure, fitness, and gadgets. So essentially, anything that's on the lower bit of this table should be your primary content pillars, and then your secondary content pillars should be in relation to what people care about in relation to the product or the service that you have. So if we flip this on its head and how you would map this as the user journey on site, that content that sits at the bottom, which is around their interests and the things that they care about. So this is the thing that will really help your brand resonate with that user. That when it comes to lifestyle and interests, will be your magazine, blogs, or it could even be the information that you put on your PLPs. And then you want to be linking to more in-depth content around the actual features, capabilities of that particular product or service that a user is going to care about. And then obviously linked to your product or service. And it's between the two phases of consideration and purchase that a user might actually decide to pay a visit to store. So how do we then supercharge your strategy with AI? This is a very top-line overview of a strategy that you can implement to increase online visibility and then drive people to store. So obviously this covers your basics of making sure that the site is accessible. So obviously doing your tech and your content audits, but also most importantly, including your audience insights into your keyword research. And this forms a foundation of everything. And then mapping your consumer search journey and what that would look like, and understanding what type of content needs to be optimized or created to facilitate that. And obviously you've got Google My Business and your local SEO strategies, and making sure that you're also leveraging socials to also build that brand affinity and showing what actually might happen in stores such as events and things like that, and then feeding that into your reporting. And then based on that, the cycle should continue. So these are some key considerations that you need to focus on when you're implementing something like this. You need to leverage your location-based keywords, obviously content marketing. As I mentioned earlier, this is going to be your key when it comes to cutting through all of that noise and actually resonating with those users. Making sure that obviously your website is mobile friendly. As we know, a lot of local searches happen on a mobile phone as well. And leveraging social media, as I said previously, this is going to be related to your physical stores and locations. So if you're having events, if there's offers or promotions, make sure that you're sharing this online. And then omnichannel as well. So this is capturing those people that may have been browsing their site, that may have been searching around, and maybe they've dropped off, but making sure you're sending targeted emails to basically draw them back into the journey as well. And then of course, using QR codes to basically understand people's activity online versus offline as well. So when it comes to AI, obviously, and machine learning, we can use it to automate data analysis, pattern recognition, and predictive modeling in order to optimize various aspects of our strategy. So 80% of consumers are more likely to purchase if there's personalization involved in their customer experience. And McKinsey actually predicts that offline to person experiences will be the next horizon for personalization. So this is going to be key. And as I mentioned before, with the rise of the zero consumer, they are not interested in a lot of brands, a lot of products. They just care about the thing in that moment, but nothing's really bringing them in. But most of them will hang around and will become lifelong customers if there's personalization involved. So you should be using your AI tools to scale personalization and your on-site capabilities to do this to drive engagement and visibility as well. So the things that you should consider is obviously how can you use AI for audience insights, content optimization, and of course UX personalization and data analysis. And I found this study that I read the other day, which is the rise of personalized commerce study. And it actually showed that 70% of businesses that used AI reported seeing a 200% of ROI from it, which I thought was very interesting as well. So pardon the picture and a guest in the background, sorry, Ollie. This is an example that I saw on Mimi's website, which I thought was really cool, where obviously these are £400 glasses, and it allows you to use augmented reality to basically try them on before you even get into store. And obviously you might not want to buy something as expensive as this online, but you might complete your journey in store. So I thought this was interesting to show. So as I said, local SEO is a major component of an effective O2O strategy. And a tool that I think is worth highlighting is Bright Local. I'm not sure if many of you guys have heard or used this before, but it's a comprehensive local SEO tool that uses AI, and it's great for rank tracking, citations, doing local SEO tracking, and then also analytics and reporting features as well. These are some other examples of AI tools that you can use. So going back to what I was saying, so Pave AI, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of this one before, but this one actually connects into your Google Analytics as well. But what it does is it basically turns the data into actionable insights. So if you have a bit of a lull when it comes to reporting and you're not seeing the patterns and you can't think of what things to do, Pave AI will basically sort that out for you, and it identifies patterns in user behavior and then helps you to optimize and create personalized content as well. Market Muse is another one that's AI driven that basically helps you create and optimize your content based on your entire website as well, and then it improves the quality and relevance of everything that you do. And as always, you need to make sure that you have a human touch to this. And of course, you've got Optimize, which I'm sure everyone's heard of, which enhances CRO and user experience. And then we have Adobe Experience Cloud, which you can use for A/B testing as well. So in summary, your audience now has become very, very fussy, and it's very hard to please. And they're being bombarded with information constantly online. And actually, if you have a physical location to your brand or your website, you can actually use this to a huge advantage, which you should do. And with the rise of the zero consumer, this is also forcing us to look into things like personalization. And we need to be leveraging our keyword research to look a bit beyond the product or service, but understanding what their needs, wants, and interests are in order to connect with them, using content and digital PR to obviously amplify this. And then we should be using AI to basically do this at scale and making sure that we're using it to identify pattern recognition with our users' behavior and to leverage our strategy. And I think that was it. So thank you very much. If you'd like the deck, please come and see me over here.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.